share with you why I have joined and I have supported and I have announced publicly and why I am campaigning for Joe Biden. If I told you this is Biden's policy paper, there are several policy papers, this is about immigration. I carry it so that when I talk to my Muslim brothers and sisters, I could read one or two relevant statements. This is what it says. Restore our moral leadership. One of them is terminate the travel ban against people from Muslim majority countries. That will be the first act after the election when he becomes the President of the United States. And there are just so many. I encourage you to, this is available at Biden's campaign website. Please read this. You will be encouraged that this is the right candidate for this difficult moment. We, in December 2016, we received a phone call from the Vice President's office when we were being attacked by Donald Trump and his surrogates. And the person who called from the Vice President's office, this is 2016, December, said that Vice President would like to meet with you. Would you come to Washington? We were in Charlottesville, Virginia. We asked him which day you want us to come. So we arrived at the Vice President's residence. He had gathered many other people and he had started to speak because we ran a few minutes late. He saw us entering from the door because he was speaking at the podium, and he interrupted his remarks. We thought that we will stand in the corner when he's done speaking, then we will go and shake his hand and say thank you for inviting us. And then he stepped forward, he came towards us and escorted us to the back of the podium to his private office in the Vice President's residence. And there is a fireplace, and on the fireplace were his family pictures. And he stood with us in a huddled formation. He was in the middle, Khizr on one side, and I was standing on the other side, and he said, see my family? This is Joe Biden, this is so-and-so, this is so-and-so. He introduced everyone, and then he placed his hand on my shoulder, Khizr's shoulder, and said, you're my family. Don't worry about this difficulty, about these threats that you're receiving from Donald Trump. I stand. That speaks volume of a person's character. He was not the candidate. He did not need us. We were not his supporters. But he has the character of being empathetic. And that is the character that is missing in Donald Trump today. After we came back and life got busy and we started to continue to speak, other candidates also approached us to support them, and we told them that we would wait till the primary is over. Then came the call from the Biden campaign. We already had that knot in our heart that this is our candidate, not only because he was kind to us, but because his time and his difficulties had prepared him, given him the character that is necessary for today's time. Other candidates are wonderfully qualified. They are very good patriots and decent people, and I respect all of them. But Joe Biden is qualified, in my opinion, for this reason, that his time, his 40 years of service has prepared him to bring us together. Where Trump divides us, Trump expands Muslim ban, I am afraid that up until November, God forbid, what else he will do against the values of the United States, against the goodness of this country. But we need to come together. We need to support one another. We need to gather our resources, contribute as much as you can. I volunteer my time. All of my speaking engagements are pro bono. I donate $25 every month to various campaigns. That's all I can afford. Whatever you can afford, contribute. Ask your children. Before coming here, I was at Biden's head office here. Pardon me. And there were many wonderful people that had come, precinct captains, volunteers. My eyes were looking for some Muslims among them, and there was none. Volunteer, call tomorrow, register, tell them I can only do Saturday for a few hours. Go and learn, your voice will be heard. Virginia is an example that we decided that we are going to participate in all of our campaigns. Governor's campaign, Senate's campaign. Everywhere, every campaign you go, Muslims are present there, either volunteers or paid staff, and their communities are doing much more vigorous work that needs to be done to be an organized community. So, one humble request that we have wonderful candidate in Biden, because of his character, because of his decency, because of his policies, because of his experience, because of his leadership. He's the only candidate that is known throughout the world with dignity and respect. Therefore, as Muslims, our time has come to face this difficulty with courage, with bravery, and I end my comments with a small story of the fire of Namrud and a little bird. Some of you may be familiar with it, but let me just share it in a short form. Namrud wanted to get rid of, he was a terrible, cruel king. He wanted to get rid of his opposition, and he said, light the fire, the biggest fire that there could ever be, and that will get rid of all of my opposition. So the fire was lit, and that fire expanded so much and burned so high and so wide that it engulfed the forest. All the birds of the forest flew away and went and sat at the corner of the river and started to talk sometime the way we are worried, what is going to happen to this fire? What is going to happen to this fire of division and fire of hatred among each other? One little bird, most of us are that way. One little bird decided, I'm going to do something about it. The bird will go to the river, fill its beak with one drop of water, fly back, drops it on the fire and goes again. Fills one drop, his beak, with one drop of water. The other birds begin to laugh at him and say, wait a minute, do you even realize how great this fire is? You think your drop of water will make any difference? So this humble bird answered, says, I know, it may or it may not make any difference. But when I stand before my Creator, and when I stand before myself, when I look in the mirror at myself, I want to be known that I did my best when my time came. I did my best. Remember that story. When your conscience asks you, what did you do when Muslims, when other communities, our They're facing the worst cruelty. Places of worship, people are being attacked. Our Christian brothers and sisters, their churches are being attacked. Muslim mosques are being attacked because that element that hates others has been given strength and has risen. It is our turn. It is our turn to show that we are for justice, we are for fairness, and we will do everything that is within our means. And when the time comes, we will look back and we will say to ourselves that yes, we did what we could, and then some more. Thank you for inviting, thank you for listening. I am grateful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Khan, for this inspiring speech. Are there any questions? You have any questions for Mr. Khan? This is your chance. Gonna shower.
You want to come?
No, it's fine. I can talk about it.
So, well, I'm going to repeat it.
What he said about it, but besides that, I have a question about if you would. What about the health coverage? Agenda of Joe Biden. The health coverage. Oh, the question is, what is the agenda, if you were to share with us, for health coverage with Mr. Joe Biden?
Thank you for asking that question. In brief, I will share this. I was in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. There was a veterans gathering. Half of the hall was full of Republican veterans that had voted for Trump. Half of the hall was Democratic veterans. And they identified themselves and they said, we are Republican veterans and we have voted for Trump. Our question is, what is going to happen to our health care? We are worried to death. And then this person lifted his sleeve and showed me the mark of his dialysis, her dialysis, it was a women veteran. And she said, Mr. Khan, I'm a Republican, I have voted for Donald Trump, but I am worried to death about my health care. Can you tell us what is going to happen to my health care? So I asked her, what is your concern? She said, this pre-existing condition that is being eliminated. There are lawsuits filed by the Trump administration to eliminate the Affordable Care Act entirely. And Biden's plan is, as he has done before, in making sure that Affordable Care Act is passed. His plan is to strengthen it, not eliminate it, strengthen it. Meaning that the premiums are reduced, the prescription drug cost is reduced, and the people that deserve to be covered are covered. It is, see, this thing should be answered a little differently. And that is, Does this person care? Is this person empathetic to the condition of Americans? Biden comes from a middle-class family himself, so he knows the burdens of the middle-class family. He is an army father. He knows when men and women are deployed, what burdens they carry, what needs they have at home. So it is that character of care, of courtesy, of empathy that will answer all of these questions that if you wish to read further, log on to Joe Biden's campaign, and there is a detailed healthcare plan, education plan, our foreign policy, our immigration policy. And out of all this, when I read it, I have read it, I have it in my binder. When I read it, one thing comes very clear, and that is that this person cares. And the answer lies in the character of the leader, not in the details. But there are details as well. As I mentioned that he had promised, and it is listed very clearly, strengthening Affordable Care Act instead of eliminating. Current president wishes to eliminate it entirely. And most people of my age with some illness are worried to death, like that veteran, that what is going to happen to this pre-existing condition. So I implore everyone to read his healthcare, his immigration policy, his policy of strengthening our education system, and so on. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Maria. I have a question about, I'm a daughter of immigrants. My parents came here documented, as did my grandparents. And I'm wondering how you feel. I'm sure many people here are immigrants or related to immigrants. I'm wondering how you feel about supporting a candidate who was part of an administration that deported the most people, like 2.5 million people. How do you, the Muslim ban is very important, but how does that sit with you, having a candidate who deported the most people in that administration?
Well, the best I can answer that is that what has been taking place at our borders had never happened before these days. What has happened to our immigrant families at the border, snatching children from mothers, from families, has never happened before. As I mentioned, I have this immigration policy, and the very first thing Biden wishes to do is, I know your question is about the past, but this is what he plans to do now. Immediately end the horrific practice of separating families at our border and holding immigrant children in for-profit prisons, abandoning our deepest held values, does nothing to increase security at our border. I know you're asking about the practice of the previous administration, of Obama's administration, for which I don't have a specific answer. But that was then, and comparing to what we are facing now with our immigrant families, with these travel bans and and growing cruelty towards immigrants, towards asylum seekers, I would very much implore you to read the policy paper. And you will realize that that was then. And I am sure there may be some justification of following that policy. But his current statements, current policy paper, convinces me that this would be a different administration than what we have today.
But family separation started under Obama's administration. It's possible because of
Thank you. Unfortunately, we ran out of time, so there'll be no more questions. However, inshallah, you are very welcome. We have a photo session over there if you guys would like to take a picture with Mr. Khan. But it's in about 5 minutes, we're gonna inshallah go over there and pray the Isha prayer. And maybe we can come back again. Or he doesn't have work tomorrow. So we're gonna come back again, inshallah. But let's put our hand one more time, inshallah, for the Thank you so much, and inshallah, that concludes this event. And we're gonna come back after the Isha prayer, inshallah.